Hello and welcome to another AIC video. I posted this video here a few days ago, a week and a half ago now, I think at this point, about installing Windows 11 on an incompatible laptop. And I got a comment on there that was pretty aggressive in telling me that I shouldn't tell anybody how to do this. And I asked them why. What reasoning did they have for me as to why I shouldn't show people how to install Windows 11 on an incompatible computer? Because if they had a legitimate concern, I was happy to look into it, and they never came back with that. And so I thought, well, if it's a concern that some people may have, I thought I'd go over some of those concerns that I could find and address them to the best of my ability with the knowledge that I have. So if I'm wrong on anything, please feel free to correct me down in the comment section down below. This is just from my personal knowledge and my personal experience working with computers for a long time and with upgrading my own personal computers to Windows 11, such as my EliteBook 2570p, which is a 3rd Gen Core i7 2632QM, I believe I have in here. So it's a 4-core 8-thread, pretty fast little computer here with its CPU. It's actually faster than the computer in the video, slightly, ever so slightly faster in certain tasks. So for the CPU specifically. So wanted to go over those and kind of address some of those. I did a little research, and there were a lot of concerns that I didn't feel were legitimate, so I'm not going to cover those. Just talk about ones that I feel are something that might actually concern people and something that people might actually experience. The first one is instability. So obviously you're installing an operating system on a computer that was not meant to run that operating system. And on a computer that's quite old at this point, honestly. With supported CPUs started being available in what, 2018. It's now 2025, so that's 7 years of compatible computers, right? So anything within the last 7 years should be already compatible with Windows 11. Now I'm speaking specifically of laptops, not of desktops. Desktops, it really depends on things like the motherboard you bought and a few other things. So it does depend on what we're talking about, though I'm covering specifically laptops. So we're talking about older laptops and used laptops, stuff that's been around for a minute, and drivers. So in this case, we have my EliteBook 2570p. Now let's just do. So you can tell I've been looking this up. So part of the problem I had with this specific laptop was just downloading drivers, and things like this detect my software drivers didn't even work. So you can't rely on that for drivers. You have to kind of go through and download things yourself. And I'm not going to go through all of here, but like one of the things that I couldn't find were the hotkeys. So these buttons up top, the function keys that you use not just for the F1, F2, F3, but for like your screen brightness and your volume controls, things like that. Those don't even show up under our list for Windows 10 64-bit. I found them, I believe, under Windows 8.1 64-bit. So it took me a bit of finding these drivers to get them to work the way they needed to. Those drivers aren't meant for this operating system. So you may have issues with those drivers and this operating system. That is a legitimate concern. Now, in my experience at this moment, if a computer has been working just fine with Windows 10, it seems to do just fine with Windows 11 as far as stability goes. So if you've upgraded your computer to Windows 10, it's working great. I would expect it to also work well with Windows 11. I don't think there's a lot different under the hood of Windows 11, at least as far as like the difference between, say, like Windows XP and Windows Vista, right? Those were massive differences in the base functionality of the operating systems. I don't think there's that big of a generational gap between 10 and 11. And on that same topic, compatibility, there's a good chance that you will struggle, depending on the computer that you have, to find compatible drivers that will get all of your peripheral ports, whatever, on your system working. I had a big problem. If I come in here, let's go to settings, and we go down to, or if we go up to system, and then down to about, and then we scroll down to device manager. This is where you can check to make sure all your devices are installed. If we come in here, this HP mobile data protection sensor, there's a sensor in this for the hard drive that will park the hard drive if it detects that this is going to experience a fall, which at the time was very critical for these machines. However, in this day and age, I have an SSD in here, and so that doesn't even like this couldn't. There's nothing to park. There's no heads to park because there's no hard drive. It's an SSD. Also, that system just isn't compatible with Windows 11. There's no support for it. The drivers technically did install, but it no longer functions. So even if I did have a hard drive in here, it wouldn't work. And so that is something to be concerned of. Now, all the more important things, graphics, USB drives, chipset drivers, on this machine specifically, installed, drivers were all there, and it all works perfect. Now, I will say that if you're planning on doing this, I would not do this with your run-of-the-mill consumer laptop. If you're still running an older consumer laptop, get rid of it and buy a newer computer that is already compatible. But if you have an older business class laptop, which in the EliteBook is their business class line, they tended to have longer support for drivers. They tended to have longer support with newer versions of operating systems and things like that. And so you're more likely to find compatible drivers with a business class laptop. But again, if you don't already own one, I wouldn't go out and buy one of these to then run Windows on it. I did this because I already own this laptop. I'm not spending any extra money. Now, the next issue that I don't know if I can call this legitimate concern, but it might be. Obviously, you're not going to get support. Not from your hardware manufacturer, not from Windows. The thing is, though, all these laptops are older anyways and are long out of support. Like, again, at least 6 or 7 years old, right? So they're pretty darn old computers at this point. So there's not going to be a manufacturer's warranty anyways. And as far as support from Windows, I've never gotten support from Windows outside of a corporate environment anyways, right? Like, so it's like, I'm like, if you had a major problem, you aren't going to get support for it, but at the same time, you weren't going to get support for it anyways. And if you're doing this, you're probably somebody who will more than likely be able to do the majority of your own personal troubleshooting. So, yeah, support could be a concern for some people. And if it is, buy a new computer and get one with a warranty and pay for the 3-year warranty or whatever. Buy a ThinkPad and get 3-year on-site support. It's not that expensive, and they're amazing, and they show up the next business day. I've used them a few times on different laptops that I've bought used that came with that warranty already attached to that computer and never had a problem. They're great. And I live out in the middle of nowhere. This last time I required support on a computer I had, they said, hey, you're in the middle of nowhere. Is this urgent? If it is, we'll be out there tomorrow. But if you can wait, a couple days so we can have some more work in the area. I said it wasn't a major issue. It was a problem with my sound card. I just had to plug in headphones. It was fine. So they came out a couple days later, right? And they called me beforehand and just asked if it was okay if they put me on hold for a couple days, which I was fine with. So yeah, if you need support, buy a ThinkPad, buy it new, buy it with the warranty. They're great. If you can't support your own system. The fourth thing on my list is security. And this is probably the big one. because the biggest thing that they're pushing is the TPM, or Trusted Platform Module 2.0, and that is a requirement, a hardware component for security in newer systems. And the biggest things that I could find it being used for was Windows Hello, which is like the facial recognition and the fingerprint sensor and stuff, BitLocker, and Secure Boot. Now the thing is none of these older computers support that. I at least know Windows Hello, and most of them don't have BitLocker or an older version of it. And Secure Boot, some of them have it, some of them don't. The business class laptops, it's kind of one of those depending on how it was configured. And so, yes, that is a concern, but I don't think that those things are as big of an issue for 99% of people as it was made out to be. All right, like that's really something, like if you're a business and you need to really have secure computers, but for like the majority of people, I don't think it's as big of concern for most people. I'll just say that. Now, it did say that it did use it for digital certificates and encryption data. I couldn't find any statistics or any specifics on that. If somebody has more information for me on that, I'd appreciate it. Again, throw that down in the comment section down below. But if you're just using this for basic computing tasks and you're not running a high risk of, you're just not running a high risk of malware, right? So, if you're browsing Facebook and checking your email and not clicking on weird links, like your risk anymore is pretty darn low on your computer. Right? I can't even remember last time I even got a warning about a virus on my computer, because I just don't go to websites and do stuff that's risky anymore. I used to download stuff all the time on peer-to-peer networks that were terrible, but even those, a lot of those have really cleaned themselves up because it doesn't behoove them to have risky things on their systems. And your biggest risks are through data leaks through online platforms that it doesn't matter what computer you're using, because that's all somebody else's stuff. So I don't know. Yes, I think that is a concern. I don't think it's as big a concern as it's being made out to be by Microsoft. And then the last big one that I saw was a risk of Windows turning off your updates entirely, basically making it no better than running Windows 10 on here. And that one, again, that's definitely a possibility. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible for Windows to do that. Definitely a possibility. But I don't think it behooves Windows, once again, to do that, because they would rather keep you on Windows 11, if they can keep you on Windows 11 for another year or two, than have you decide, hey, I'm not going to move, and I'll move to Chrome or Linux or Apple, right? Because then you're completely off their platform, and most people who switch to another platform don't come back usually, right? So most people who are going to be doing this are really just trying to get another year or two out of the computer they already own, right? They're not looking to spend big bucks right now, and they're just trying to eke out a little bit more life. Because once again, there's nothing wrong with this computer. It's perfectly functional. It works. It's not dented. The screen's not broken. I could easily use this computer for another year or two or three if it was my daily driver, and not worry about it, and then save up and buy something when there is a justification enough for me to spend, I pushed the button, enough justification for me to spend the money on a newer system if this was my daily driver. So I don't think it's in Microsoft's best interest to do that. Now, I might be wrong. I might be 100,000% wrong. I don't think I am. So I kind of touched on it already, of why. Why would somebody go through the effort to put Windows 11 on an unsupported device? And there's a few. There's two big ones. And again, I already talked about this computer a little bit, but my X270, my ZBook 14, my my kids' X250 that they use for schoolwork. All perfectly functional computers. They can browse the web, they can watch YouTube, they can watch stuff on like Amazon Prime. They can even play games, more casual games and stuff like that, without issue. They can play Minecraft just fine, right? Like my ZBook 14 that has a graphics card, it can run Minecraft at lower settings, and get like 60, 70 frames per second, right? So you can play games on it, you can browse the web, you can do all the things you normally do on a computer. There's nothing wrong with it, and there's not been a big enough uplift in performance on newer machines for a lot of people to justify spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a new computer if their current computer is still functional. Now, there may be something. So this computer's, again, not perfect. It has a DisplayPort instead of HDMI, which is a little annoying. It doesn't have any USB-C, right? But what this computer does have is an optical drive. So this, for me personally, I still watch physical media. I watch a lot of TV shows, and I like to be able to just sit on the sofa. My wife will be watching something on the big screen that I'm not interested in, 90 Day Fiance or whatever crap that is, and I can sit on this and put in a disc and watch what I want. We can still be in the same room. And, that to me has a ton of value for this machine, that I can still do that. It's the smallest computer I know that is functional, it works, that has an optical drive on it. It's a 12.5-inch screen. And so there's a lot of people that just have older machines that are still perfectly good, and there's no reason to upgrade the hardware. The next thing is people like me that are tinkerers and collectors, and they want to use their older systems to do everyday activities on them. Again, nothing wrong with this computer. Let's just, let me mute this so I don't get a copyright strike. If we just come to YouTube, let's click on something completely random here. Not your average mini PC. There we go. See how quick that came up. We have an advertisement that is running through. Other advertisements. We skip it. Go to full screen, exit full screen. If I wanted to use this for every stuff, why couldn't I? I'm a tinkerer. I like playing with old things. I like the functionality with the optical drive that this has. There's just a lot of cool things about this computer that I want to be able to do and still be secure when I'm accessing the internet, and be in support for like web browsers and stuff like that. Which this is, you need to be on the modern operating system for. And the big question, I guess, is it worth doing? Does somehow putting Windows 11 on this computer make it completely unusable? Obviously not. If anything, I kind of think Windows 11 runs as good, or if not even slightly better than Windows 10 on here. It's very snappy, very quick. I think it's a more finished product than Windows 10 is. I love Windows 10. It's been a great operating system. There's things about Windows 11 I don't necessarily love, namely the data collection and stuff like that. But as far as like a polish on the operating system, it's a better polished operating system. It just is. And is this like the most powerful laptop in the world? Absolutely not. But it's functional and it works great. Probably the biggest complaint I have with this computer is that the speakers on it suck. And they always have. It's a productivity laptop and not a multimedia laptop. And so it was never meant to have very good speakers. But as far as like being able to load web pages and browse the internet and do all the thing that, look how quick that is. Scroll through. Is my other computer faster? Yeah, probably, but would I notice? No. And I would not go out and buy a computer like this and install this on here. If you're going to spend the money, especially if you're more than like $150, you can find my T495 that I have. I think I paid like $125 for that, right? And that's compatible, and it's got USB-C and HDMI and all that jazz. So unless you're specifically going for a specific system that, like this, is 12.5-inch screen with optical drive, or it's a system you already own, I wouldn't do this on purpose, right? Like I wouldn't spend money on doing this. I would upgrade the computer that you already own, and hold on to it until you get to the point where you are ready to upgrade. That's really what this is a stopgap. There's still several months left of Windows 10 support. I want to say it's October, November. And so it's now January, so it's 10, 11 months of support still. And so you may not even need to do this. But if you are at the point where you think you need to, do the upgrade. Anyways, I hope this answered some people's questions. Hope it addressed some of the concerns that people may have with doing this upgrade. If I'm wrong at all, leave specifics. Don't just tell me I'm wrong, but give me a specific reason. Back up your claims in the comments, not just for me, but for the other people that come along. And we'll see how well this ages at the end of this year. I will be running Windows 11 on a few different older computers I have, and I'll let them continue to do Windows updates and things like that. And we'll follow up in a year and see if they're still being supported. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.